Yeah, so warm hello to everybody again. The Mo Sangha is here. All those who are part of this via YouTube, deep bow to you and your practice. May you have endless benefit from this reading. So, when this mind is put to work, it can invest any possible thing, even nuclear bombs. Mind creates all these amazing gadgets, voice recorders, airplanes that can fly through the sky. These inventions don't think, but they were created by the thinking mind. Sentient beings create the samsara that we have right now. The creation of samsara will not ultimately help us in any way. Well, this was just before AI and everything, so I suppose we can include that stuff. Mind is invisible and intangible. That is why people don't know it. That is why they wander. Oh, excuse me, they wonder. Have I really recognized this nature of mind? If it were a concrete thing, scientists would have figured it out a long time ago. That first part right there may be very helpful for people who are just recognizing the awareness or just starting to familiarize, explore. It says here, mind is invisible and intangible. That's why people don't know it. It's right here in front of us. It's so simple. And many great masters of awareness, many meditation masters have said this. And people like Dudrum Rinpoche, for example, said many intelligent beings will not recognize the nature of their mind because it's so simple and it's right there in front of them. It's too simple. We want something more complicated. All many beings are like that. We want there to be stages. We want there to be complexity, intellectual solutions, intellectual solutions. We need that, right? Even though our conceptual framework is so tiny, the how many words we know and how many concepts we actually know is so small. It's like an ant trying to figure out uh, the computer. We just don't have that in our. That's what we mean sometimes by the intellect, that smaller conceptual framework that we try to use to contemplate ineffability. We don't have to write books about the ocean. We can just jump in. We don't have to have one single thought about the ocean to jump in it. Just like that. Awareness is like that, okay? So even he says, have I really recognized the nature of mind? That's great. So scientists would have figured out a long time ago, but it isn't. So scientists don't necessarily know what mind is. If they did, all scientists would be enlightened. But have you ever heard of a scientist becoming enlightened through science? Sure, they know a lot of other things. They can make telephones that let you instantly talk to anybody anywhere in the world, and they can make machinery that flies hundreds of people together through the sky. They can drive trains directly through mountains. All this is possible if mind is put to work. We'll have to scroll. It is an inexhaustible treasure, but that still doesn't mean enlightenment. When the mind is put to use for something and gets caught up in it, this does not lead to enlightenment. We need to know the essential nature of mind. Yeah, so this goes also kind of to a topic that's floating in the ether right now. In regards to manifesting, I would make sure that your mind is relatively clear, open, uncontrived before you, yeah, well, there's no real need to entertain this manifesting thing because when your mind is clear and uncontrived, you'll naturally manifest really kind of according to the harmony with your heart mind, so to speak. Okay. So it is mind that right now thinks of all these different things. As long as thinking does not dissolve, we do not attain enlightenment. Being caught up in thoughts is exactly what is meant by spinning in samsara. Oof! Just like a wheel in machinery. With wheels on a car, you can drive all over the world, right? Wow, right there. Being caught up in thoughts is exactly what is meant by spinning in samsara. For those of you who keep trusting this thinking mind and keep creating a little nook, creating a little comfort zone in those thoughts, it's time to get out of that cloud. It even feels like a cloud, doesn't it? Take the chance, come into a greater scope of your cognizance. Uh, Thoughts are great, let them be there, but don't let them spin and form a cocoon, exactly like we were mentioning earlier. Just like electrons and neutrons, they're not actual particles, they're just waves that create a border, like a cocoon. Well, your thoughts do that too. There are people, religious extremists, and very angry people. I would venture to say gang members and things like that. They're just in thought cocoons, packaged with emotions in the body too. But it's really a kind of womb that we're in. Through the power of awareness, you can actually awaken out of that boundary. So, what is the way to dissolve thoughts, to totally clear them up and let them vanish? The Buddha had the technique on how to clear up thinking. That's what the pointing out instruction from a qualified master is for. When you go to school, you have to repeat the ABCs back to the teacher so that they can be aware of whether you know the alphabet or not. Until one knows, one needs to be taught, to be shown. Until one fully knows mind essence, one needs a teacher. It's as simple as that. Otherwise, our thinking spins like wheels on a car. When the wheels on a car move, they drag the car around. Like the spinning wheels of a car, our thinking has never stopped through so many lifetimes. Even when we try to stop it, it gets worse. Thinking is like the shadow of our hand. Just try to shake it off. You can order the thoughts to stop, but they won't listen. Wherever mind goes, thoughts follow, like the shadow of our body. But as long as the thinking is not exhausted, samsara does not stop. Samsara means spinning, circling, continuing to circle around. Apart from recognizing mind essence, there is no other way to stop the mind from thinking. The operating system of this spinning around is called the 12 links of dependent origination, the head of which is ignorance, the lack of knowing. This ignorance of unknowing means not recognizing what our nature really is. Ignorance forces the five skandhas to be perpetuated, the physical forms, sensations, conceptions, mental formations, and cognitions that make birth follow death again and again. So there he kind of did a breeze through of the 12 links of dependent origination, but he's talking about ignorance leading to fabrications, then fabrications leading to consciousness, then consciousness leading to the five senses there. And then through the five senses, you have name and form actually through consciousness before the five senses to interact with them. And then name and form lead to the senses, and then it goes on from there into becoming, craving, clinging, birth, sickness, old age, and death. Okay, so it's all started by fabrications, well, ignorance, of course, and then we start fabricating from our ignorance, which is why I said we can stay away from manifesting. If you try to manifest based on ignorance, it's just going to be more spinning. Okay. And we also kind of talked about, be careful with thoughts. They are very powerful. In this lifetime, you may not be able to be president, right? But if you have a very, very strong attachment to that idea, um, you could end up being president in another lifetime. I think so, but it may be president of all the dogs, because you love dogs so much. It really is like that. If you ever want to look at how out of control truly your mind is, go to sleep at night. It creates a world without you. You have no say so in that dream when it gets created. And you're interacting in the dream that you created. So, walking on the ground of your own mind, seeing the clouds in the sky and the mountains of your own mind, and then walking around your own mind like that, uh, you did not deliberately create that. Those of you who do dream yoga, you're special. You don't count in this point, because you are going into your lucid mind, your subtle mind, and you're starting to see the power of your own creativity. And then what will happen is, as you go in the waking world, you'll see how that subtle mind is making this reality, just like the dream, multidimensional. Your mind is involved in the ground and the sky and the space, as well as this body and all the so-called internal workings of that. Okay? So when it remains ignorant of its own nature, it says, mind doesn't die. When it remains ignorant of its own nature, again, it perpetuates the arrangement of the five skandhas to create a new body in one of four ways: through a womb, as in the case of a human being, through instantaneous birth, through heat and moisture, or through an egg. These are the four different ways of taking rebirth in the three realms and among the six classes of being. Yeah, so take note there that the five skandhas, which come after name and form and ignorance and fabrications and consciousness, we're talking about conditioned consciousness here, okay? See, the fabrications that you create from ignorance lead to a conditioned consciousness. So almost like you're spinning a whirlpool in the middle of a vast lake. It's very, very calm, but you start creating fabrications, like just kind of a playful child, just start spinning and then from that momentum is the conditioned consciousness that starts. And then within that conditioned consciousness, duality really starts to take hold. You give name and form, start to create that. And but birth, old age, sickness, and death, remember, they come at the end of the 12 links. So that's exactly the explanation for your mind stream there, how you get born, you die, you get born, you die, but your underlying fabrications and ignorance is still there throughout all that. It's seeded into the consciousness, the alaya vijnan. Okay. So this, I'm just saying, this is incredibly nuanced. The point that he's making there it's incredibly nuanced and profound, actually. Yeah. So I think we could stop there. Yeah. Thank you so much, Yeshe, for facilitating. And thank you to the Mo Sangha. Your presence is always such a treasure. Okay. I know we get tired of the Dharma sometimes, and those of you who are participating and sitting alongside me every day, I hope you don't wear yourself out, pace yourself. But if you're very diligent and dedicated, I can also respect that, because that's exactly where I stand. Um, but your presence is so precious, and so are you. You are very precious, right? So thank you for that.